Lockout Tagout. Why we need Lockout and Tagout LOTO. Need LOTO, protect people, equipment and the environment. Positive isolation of hazardous energy sources. Defines responsibilities, task and work location. Communication, documentation and tracking. Under multidiscipline control, operations, mechanical and i.e. consistency in application. LOTO provides positive isolation of hazardous stored energy sources before work is to be done. Electrical, mechanical, thermal, chemical, electrical energy sources, when there is a potential exposed to live conductors. When it is necessary to isolate rotating equipment. Mechanical energy sources, when there is the potential to be exposed to rotating equipment or machinery. Thermal energy sources, when there is the potential to be exposed to residual heat or high temperatures. Chemical energy sources, when the potential exists for chemical exposure. Equipment used in Lockout Tagout. Locks, tags, cables, lockout boards, multi-hole hasp, tie wraps, blind spades, blind flanges. Types of lockout devices. Locks, keys and tags. Locks, keys and tags. Lockout Tagout. Covers the servicing and maintenance of machines and equipment in which the unexpected startup or the release of stored energy could cause injury to employees. Lockout Tagout. Tags will not be used alone without locks and will clearly indicate the following. Name of the authorized person working on the equipment or process, date the lock and tag was installed. Responsibilities, designated person, recognition and application of all methods of isolation of all hazardous energy sources. Provide a color coding system for the various craftsmen which will clearly identify the authorized person. Issuing of permit to work on equipment or process after witnessing the isolation. Coordinate the continuation of isolation protection through the shift or change of personnel. Ensure personnel carrying out work on isolated equipment or process are trained and qualified. Perform regular inspections and audits on the isolation procedure and report to management any improvements. Responsibilities. Authorized person. Not to remove or install any isolations or tags on equipment or process until approval in writing by the designated person. Not to de-energize any equipment or process without written approval in the form of a permit to work from the designated person. Have a complete understanding of the isolation procedures. Ensure all workers in the vicinity of isolations are notified. Ensure workers involved in repairs or maintenance are trained and understand the controls and the hazards involved. Multigroup isolation Lockout Tagout. Before isolation of equipment process, the authorized person will locate and identify all energized points and devices. Circuit breakers, valves etc. Apply for a permit to isolate equipment process from the designated person. Give advance notice to all personnel working on the same equipment process and those working in close proximity to the scheduled for isolation. Install Lockout Tagout devices in the presence of the designated person. This is to prevent the equipment from being activated while work is being carried out. Before isolation of equipment process, the designated person will determine numbers of personnel working on the same equipment process. Provide a lockout adapter when more than one group of workers are working on the same equipment process. Install his own lock to prevent the last group of workers leaving the work site and removing the lock without his prior knowledge. Lockout Tagout. Definitions. Authorized employee. Any employee who performs servicing or maintenance on machines and equipment. Lockout or tagout is used by these employees for their own protection. Affected employee: any employee who performs the duties of his or her job in an area in which the energy control procedure is implemented and servicing or maintenance operations are performed. The 5 main causes of lockout-tagout injuries: failure to stop equipment, failure to disconnect from power source, failure to dissipate, neutralize, residual energy, accidental restarting of equipment, failure to clear work area before restarting. How most injuries occur: injured by moving machinery part, made contact with energized part, injured by physical hazard, heat, chemicals, injured by falling machine part. Causes of injury: 1. UN jamming objects from equipment. 2. Cleaning equipment. 3. Repairing equipment. 4. Performing routine maintenance. 5. Installing equipment. 6. Adjusting equipment. 7. Performing electrical work. 8. Inspecting equipment. 9. Testing materials. Reasons for equipment not being turned off: afraid of slowdown in production, afraid it would take too long, worker did not know power was on, worker did not know how to turn off equipment, did not think it was necessary. Using tagout: please remember, tags are only warning devices. Tags must be securely attached. Tags do not provide physical restraint. Tags must never be ignored. Must withstand environmental conditions. Must be legible and understandable. Release from lockout-tagout: the authorized employee must 1. Inspect work area for hazards. 2. Clear all employees. 3. Notify all affected employees. 4. Remove isolations, only after receiving approval in writing by the designated person. Key elements to an effective program: 1. Develop and strictly adhere LOTO procedures. 2. Establish and enforce safe work practices. 3. Ensure proper training and supervision. 4. Strengthen and modify present policies. Electrical safety guidelines. Entry to the substation is restricted and only authorized personnel with WP entry is allowed to work inside substation. Be familiar with the electrical hazards associated with your workplace. Report all electrical problems, including tripped breakers, broken switches and flickering lights, to the responsible. Follow lockout-tagout procedures, as appropriate. Only authorized employees work around high-voltage equipment before working in a high-voltage area. Inspect the power supply and check all protective devices. Do not work alone near high voltage. Never unplug an appliance by pulling on the cord. Pull on the plug. Do not touch any energized equipment with warning sign. Electrical emergency response. In case of electric shock, when someone suffers serious electrical shock, he or she may be knocked unconscious. If the victim is still in contact with the electrical current, immediately turn off the electrical power source. Try to separate the victim from the power source with a non-conductive object, such as a wood-handled broom. Important: do not touch a victim that is still in contact with a power source. You could electrocute yourself. Call for emergency medical assistance immediately. Administer first aid, as appropriate. In case of electrical fire, if an electrical fire occurs, try to disconnect the electrical power source, if possible. Use fire extinguisher except water to extinguish the fire. Call for emergency immediately. Important, do not use water on an electrical fire.